In the waning days of the Victorian era, as the 19th century prepared to turn, the sprawling, smoky heart of London pushed its industrial ambition eastward. The destination was Dagenham Dock, a place where the Essex marshlands met the Thames, a bleak, desolate area characterized by mud, industry, and a transient population. It was here, in the autumn of 1896, that a crime occurred, which, though now mostly forgotten, once haunted the headlines of the London papers and remains a stain on the record of Scotland Yard. This is the tragic and unsolved case of the Dagenham girl murder. Our victim was Agnes Cross. She was a typical working-class girl of the time, just 16 years old with her entire life laid out before her. Agnes lived with her family in the vicinity of Dagenham and had recently become engaged to a young man, looking forward to the simple, expected life of marriage and domesticity. On the evening of Thursday, September 24, 1896, Agnes left her home. Her exact purpose that night remains one of the enduring mysteries of the case, but she was last seen alive near the railway station that serviced the Dagenham Dock area. The following morning, the horrifying discovery was made. The area around the dock was open, windswept marsh, and it was in a secluded field that Agnes's body was found. The scene was one of appalling violence. She had been brutally assaulted and stabbed multiple times. The sheer savagery of the attack sent a wave of shock through the tightly knit communities of East London and Essex. This was not a quiet, private crime. This was an act of extreme brutality committed in a lonely industrial frontier, and the public demanded immediate justice. The investigation was swiftly assigned to the highest authority, the Metropolitan Police, specifically the Criminal Investigation Department. The man placed in charge was Chief Inspector Walter Dew, a detective whose star was rapidly rising within the yard. Dew was a methodical, persistent investigator, and the Dagenham case became a significant early test of his abilities. The pressure on the police was immense. The public saw Agnes as a symbol of violated innocence, and the newspapers used the case to sensationalize the dark underbelly of life around the docks. Dew and his team began by following the standard procedures of the day. They first focused intently on her immediate circle, primarily her fiancé. In a time when passions were often assumed to be the motive for such violence, the lover was always the first suspect. However, the fiancé's alibi held up under close scrutiny, and the investigation was forced to cast a wider net over the dock environment. Dagenham Dock was a chaotic melting pot of humanity. Sailors passing through on barges, seasonal labourers seeking work in the factories, and transient workers from all over London. The killer could have been anyone. The geography of the crime scene only complicated matters. The marshes were vast and muddy, and the paths were frequented by few reliable witnesses after dark. The police found several pieces of physical evidence, including a blood-stained handkerchief. In the absence of modern forensic science, however, identifying the owner of this crucial piece of material proved impossible. It was simply catalogued as a clue without a face. The police also followed up on numerous sightings of suspicious individuals, a man seen running away from the docks, a stranger asking directions, a sailor who had vanished. Every tip consumed precious manpower and time, only to lead to dead ends fueled by rumour and class prejudice. The inquiry stretched on for weeks. Inspector Dew interviewed hundreds of people, tirelessly attempting to piece together Agnes's final hours. He faced a lack of cooperation from the rougher elements of the dock community, who were naturally distrustful of the police, and was hindered by the primitive forensic tools of his era. There were no fingerprints, no DNA analysis, only eyewitness accounts, many of which were confused or contradictory. Despite the intensity of the initial investigation, the trail went cold. The initial shock and fury of the press began to subside, replaced by other headlines. Agnes Cross became another forgotten figure in the long history of unsolved Victorian crimes. The case eventually became an official cold case, relegated to the archives. Chief Inspector Walter Dew, while failing to bring justice to Agnes Cross, would go on to his most famous triumph a few years later with the pursuit and capture of Dr. Hawley Harvey Crippen, a case that proved his skills to the world. But the Dagenham girl murder remained the one that got away. The tragic story of Agnes Cross is a powerful historical lesson. It highlights the stark vulnerability of the working class on the fringes of great industrial centres, the difficulties faced by police in an age before proper forensic technology, and how deeply an individual crime could shake Victorian society, even if it ultimately went unsolved. Her case stands as a grim reminder that not all mysteries can be illuminated, and that the shadows of 1896 still cling to the desolate marshes of Dagenham.